Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a Prem predictions video. I seem to be doing a lot of predictions these days. Made my championship predictions a few days ago. So yeah, without further ado, I guess I should get into my Prem predictions. 20th I have Norwich. I think Norwich has a solid team, but to be honest, it's not Prem standard. It's definitely not Prem standard. It's championship standard. Fark has proven before he can't do it at Premier League level, and I think he's going to show it again this season. Lees-Malou is good. Gilmore's good. They've made some good investments. Sargent is coming in. Rashika has already come in. But Norwich is going to go down 20th place. 19th, I have Burnley. I think Burnley's team is championship standard. It always has been championship standard, but Dyche has been able to keep it in the league. However, I think this time will prove too many times for Dyche to keep him in the league, and this is the year Burnley goes down to the championship. 18th, I have Brentford. I think Brentford's team is obviously a well-run club. They've got a solid team. However, they haven't done enough to the squad. They haven't brought in enough players. And all in all, 18th. 17th, Watford. I think that the fact they brought in Luza, Rose, they brought in Fletcher, they brought in Dennis, and so many others I can't even remember because they brought in so many players. But just know they brought in a lot of players, and because of that, I think they'll stay up. They've done good business. 16th, I have Southampton. Now, Southampton's team is pretty good. I mean, they haven't done much. They've brought in Perot. They've lost Ings. That's pretty much it. They're going to bring in Armstrong, I believe, to replace Ings, which is pretty good. But it is not good enough for them to really push on like they did that one season where they lost 9-0 to Leicester and went on an incredible run and everything. Everybody thought they'd be a top half team the next season, and then they turned out their shit. So, all in all, they're not great. They might even get relegated, but 16th for me. Now, right above them, I have another South Coast team, Crystal Palace. I think Palace is better than some people make them out to be. I initially thought bottom of the league, maybe. Relegation, maybe. But they've brought in Gurhey, Anderson, Gallagher. Who else? Gurhey, Anderson, Gallagher, and Elise. 4 really good signings. Now, Eze's out for about half the season, which is a big loss to the team. But with Wilf Zaha, Benteke's firing, the team's firing, 15th, and I think Vieira will be able to keep the team up. 14th, Brighton. Now, I think Brighton's team, they're good. They're a pretty good team. They're a solid unit. However, they've only brought in Mwepu and Sherpin, which isn't really the issues that need to be addressed. Their finishing is poor. But I think Brighton will be able to do a little bit better this season because their team is pretty solid. They're a solid group of players. But one thing is certain. They need a striker quickly. 13th, I have Newcastle. Their team is okay. Bruce is okay. Just average, to be honest. Nothing much to say about Newcastle because they haven't done much business in the transfer market either. 13th. 12th, I have Wolves. Wolves is a decent team. They've got a decent manager in Lage, but I think their team is going to deteriorate even more. Because Jimenez is still recovering and might take a bit for the team to get firing. And they'll start off slowly. They'll slowly get back into better results, but they'll creep into 12th, I think. 11th, I have Everton. Deteriorating for me. Everton will. I think with Rafa in charge, they're not going to do that well. I think Rafa's a bit of an overrated manager, to be honest. Yes, he had initial success with the likes of Liverpool. With the likes of Napoli, he was pretty good. But he's past it now. He showed that at Real Madrid, and he even showed that at Newcastle, because Bruce has finished in similar positions to Rafa. Bruce is getting heckled, and Rafa was treated like a god. Rafa even got Newcastle relegated once. Now, I know his team was much worse than Bruce's. However, I still think that Rafa is a bit overrated and Bruce is a bit underrated. Now, enough comparing Rafa to Bruce. I think this Everton team is not great. Hamas is good, yes. And Rafa and Hamas have worked together before. Allen is pretty good. Rafa and Allen have worked together before, I believe. Damari Gray is not a good signing. I don't know what they're thinking. Damari Gray is a horrible end product. He's not even a good player. He's just got pace, and that's about it. Asmir Begovic, what kind of... They need to invest in starter quality players. Starting players. They're doing what they were doing before Ancelotti came around. That's the likes of Damari Gray and Asmir Begovic. That's not quality signings that Everton were making last season when I was pretty excited for their squad. And now I've heavily critiqued them. I'm going to say 11th. 10th, I have Leeds. Leeds' team, yes, it's good with Bielsa in charge. I had them 10th last year and they finished 9th. So a lot of people had them lower than 10th. So I had faith in them. This time around, yes, I do think their team is good. Bringing in Junior Firpo was terrific business by Leeds. However, Rafinha's there as well. Bamford is alright. Rodrigo, they might suffer from a bit of second season syndrome. It's not going to be terrible. They're only going to move down one place. But they might falter a bit because of their high system, and they might suffer a little bit. But 10th place is still pretty solid for Leeds. 9th, I have West Ham. I think, again, like Leeds, they're going to deteriorate a little bit. Obviously, they qualified for Europe last season. Europa League, 6th place. And I think that's pretty good. Honestly, think that's really good for West Ham. But West Ham's a team that really, really, really relied on Lingard last season to get them through games. And now that he's gone, they were looking at Mateus Pereira to fill in that role. He's gone off to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia. And all in all, their team is okay. It's alright. If they lose Declan Rice, then they could finish way lower than 9th. Because he's such an important piece to their team. But 9th, I'm going to say. I think they'll move down a little bit from 6th. However, I still think this team is good. And I think they could prove me wrong, but 9th. 8th, I have Villa. Villa is... They're a team that pushes for Europe for me. They push. They will push. But Jack Grealish was so vital to their team. You saw that last season when they struggled without him. However, they've replaced them, and they've done well with that. Leon Bailey's come in. Ashley Young is a decent player. They've just brought in today Axel Zebe from United on a season-long loan. Danny Ings has come in. You know, you look at Emi Buendia, I almost forgot. He's come in. That's a solid attack and a solid team with a semi-weak midfield with a gaping hole without Grealish. But 8th place, but they could easily get into Europe. 7th is Tottenham. I think they're going to finish 7th. Now, I can hear the groans already. Oh, you've put Arsenal top 6. But Arsenal's shit. And yes, we may be shit. But, however, I gotta have us finishing above Tottenham. And I've got to have us at least getting Europe. So I'm going to be optimistic and say 6th. But we could definitely finish like 10th at the worst. Or maybe even at the best. But 6th. Even though we're going to struggle this season. And we might even finish 8th again. God. But yeah, I think we're going to finish 6th. But I was actually talking about Tottenham, not Arsenal. So I'll get back to them. They've brought in Galini, Romero. Might be bringing in Vlahovic. They were linked with Lautaro, but that's not happening. No, we're not getting him either. All in all, though, 7th place. Did they bring in anybody else? I don't think so. 6th is Arsenal. I think Arsenal's team. Listen, I've explained this a little bit. I have to have them finishing above Tottenham. It just simply has to happen. Ben White was a good signing. He's already shown promise in preseason. Now, if we keep that Lokonga-Xhaka midfield partnership until Partey comes back, and then do maybe even Partey Lokonga, because Lokonga has looked pretty good. Pretty good. El Neni is just not good enough, is he? If we have Leno in goal, Tierney, Gabriel when he comes back, Ben White, and I guess Callum Chambers if we don't get a right back, but we need to sign a right back. We've been linked with Trippier. I'd take him. I'd take Aaron's Lamptey. To be honest, we just really needed a right back, and we haven't really pushed for one. We haven't really pursued one. The midfield's pretty good, like I explained. ESR is good in there. Pepe, Saka on the wings with Martinelli as well, providing backup. Aubameyang is finished. Lacazette's alright. Valerian's young still. We kind of need a striker, and I wish we got Lautaro, but I don't think that's happening. So, 6th place, but we can definitely finish lower, like I said before. 5th, I have Leicester, missing out on Europe. Again, I'm sorry. The top 4 teams are actually really, really strong this year. Leicester, they just won the Community Shield against City with an 89th-minute penalty from a former City striker, Iheanacho. But I think they're still going to miss out on top 4, and they're going to make Europa League again. Unless they win the Europa League, which is entirely possible. 4th place, I have Chelsea. I think that Chelsea's team, yes, they just brought in Lukaku. Yes, it's gone to surface. They're the reigning champions of Europe. But I think the other teams are just stronger. And I think that Liverpool's, although they've kind of been hit with the injury bug last season, I think Chelsea is going to suffer a little bit this season and finish 4th. But they can finish higher. But I think 4th place for me. Sorry, Chelsea fans, that might seem a bit harsh, considering you just brought in one of the best strikers in the world. But 4th place for me. 3rd, I have Liverpool. I think Liverpool have Van Dijk back, Gomez back, Konate has been added to their team. Honestly, I don't see them breaking into that top 2 still, because I think Van Dijk and Gomez will take a little bit of time to recover. Thus, 3rd place behind the 2 Manchester clubs. Now, who's going to win the league? City or United? That's the conversation. 2nd place, I have United. For me, the top 4 is entirely interchangeable. Any of these teams can win it. Which of the Manchester clubs will win it? I think City. Now, let me get into explaining why I have United 2nd. They brought in Varane and Sancho. And Tom Heaton. But in general, it's a pretty good team. Solid everywhere you look. Solid. What they really need, if they want to push for the title, is a midfield partner for Pogba. If they can bring in a midfield partner for Pogba, like Camavinga, or like a Rice, or a Coop Miners, or a Neves, or any of those names I just mentioned will do for United, to have a partner to Pogba. Then they can maybe win the league, but that might be a push considering how strong City's team is. Now, first I have City, because I know they lost the Community Shield. Listen, everybody's bringing that up about City. It might be fraudulent, but I don't think so. Grealish might be a fraud. No. With a full strength City team, they've got Ederson, they've got a left back in Zinchenko, who's pretty good. Better than Benjamin Mendy, I might add. They've got Cancelo and Walker on the right side. They've got Diaz and Stones at center back. They've got midfield, De Bruyne, Grealish, Foden, Fernandinho is still solid. They've got, who else have they got in that midfield? Jeez, Gundogan in that midfield as well. In general, their team is just so strong as well. What they lack still is a striker who can do what Aguero did. And I'm not 100% sure why they haven't actually invested in a striker. Because bringing in Grealish, yes, he's good. But do you think, is it necessary to bring in Grealish when in his positions, you've already got Foden and De Bruyne and Sterling as well for the wingers. You've got Sterling and Mahrez and God, they've got other players. Okay, Foden can also play there. In general, it's a strong area for City. Now, if they had invested Bernardo Silva as well, I forgot. Now, if they had invested in a striker like probably not a Haaland, but maybe even a Lukaku or a Lautaro or anybody, or a Griezmann maybe, or just anyone, to be honest. Kane could still be on the way. If Kane comes in, then that team is complete. Then that team can even push for the Champions League. But in my opinion, they're not winning the Champions League. PSG might, but they're not, because they don't have that out-and-out striker. They're not going to be able to do it. That's why I don't think they'll win the Champions League. But Premier League champions, Man City. Now, my 3 relegated teams, to wrap it up: Norwich, Burnley, Brentford going down. City winning the league, with the top 4 following United, Liverpool, and Chelsea.